Today I'm going to show you how to make your car's ride height more aggressive to look from this to this. And I'm going to do this by installing performance coilovers with adjustable dampers, and this should help you completely transform your car. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step on how to install coilovers all by yourself without special tools, and there may be some challenges to remove the OEM suspensions, which I'm going to show you how to handle in details. For this Lexus IS250 IS project, until now I have installed the front conversion headlights, the front bumper kit, the rear sequential taillights. I also restored my beat up wheels as well as installed aggressive spoiler and diffuser as you have seen in the last episode, and the car looks absolutely stunning. And as you may already know, I am building this project for the Driven Car Show powered by eBay Motors, which is the largest Canadian auto show. And at this point, I have less than 4 days to the show. I am optimistic that I can finish this build on time, so join me as I race to the finish line to complete this build. Alright, things are starting to look good overall, and I'm happy with the work I have done so far. However, check the factory height of the car on factory wheels, and these wheels are definitely not gonna be on the car. And as you can tell, the height is very undesirable, and obviously in the back, the OEM offset is not just something that I wanna have on the car. So I'm gonna finally put the newly painted jet black wheels from the previous episodes, and along with that, I'm gonna go ahead and also install some Maxpeedingrods performance coilovers. Today I'll be installing coilovers for the first time, and Maxpeedingrods sent me these amazing set of coilovers for the Lexus IS350 rear wheel drive, and these are gonna look absolutely phenomenal. I've done some digging of my own, and I've also watched this video from Donut Media, and I was absolutely sold on the Maxpeedingrods. These are believed to be one of the best budget performance coilovers in the market for the Lexus IS350 and other cars. Look at that. I can already tell you that the reds are gonna look absolutely sick. Check this out. This looks fabulous. I am so excited to put these on the car, and this model of Maxpeedingrods coilovers comes with a 24-way adjusting damper, and these should make my driving experience absolutely phenomenal on the street. Inspecting the build quality from the appearance of it, it looks good so far, and I don't see any fluid leaks or damage during shipping. Here is the spring rate information for these springs, and it also comes with dust covers inside. And here's the 24-way dampers that I can adjust whenever I want. It has 24 clicks if you can hear it. So before I install them, I'm gonna go ahead and set all the dampers to the 0 position and adjust them slowly after installing them in the car. Inside the packaging, you will get a small introduction to Maxpeedingrods, and they're actually proud sponsors of many drift events such as the British Drift Championship, and they have a lot of happy customers and bunch of drifters who use their products in their performance builds. Inside the package, here is an instruction sheet for these coilovers, and along with that, you will also get an Allen key as well as 2 coilover adjusting arms. I'm gonna keep them aside for later. The instruction sheet gives you a pretty good step-by-step instruction on how to install these. And here on the sheet, you can see the settings for the damper. If you look closely, these are the suggested damping positions starting from 0 position. If you start turning it clockwise from 0 to 8, it is set up for racing and track purposes. So that will not be my application. From 9 to 16 is suggested for mountain, so I will also not be using that. And the levels from 17 to 24 are suggested for street use, and I will probably set up in this range at around 20 clicks. They also provided a nice instruction sheet on how to set your ride height, and I'm going to go through these step by step while installing it. And that should be pretty much it. So I guess the only time consuming part would be to remove the OEM struts, and after that, it should be very much easy to put these Maxpeedingrods coilovers in the car. This is my first time experience with Maxpeedingrods, and I can already tell you they have done a really good job by setting up the preload before they ship it out to you. But if you want to go ahead and make sure if the preload is all the same, you can take a measuring tape and measure the distance of the lightly compressed length of each spring and set them to a uniform length. And to do this, you can use the adjusting arm they provided in the kit, and I can just lock it on here and rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise as per my requirement. And that will make sure that the preload is set equally on all of the springs. Once you are sure with your preload, you can go ahead and permanently lock the preload using the smaller locking nut, which is below the larger spring plate. The big plate right here is to adjust your preload, and the one below that is for locking the position of your adjusted preload. Once you have set your preload, you can forget about these 2 locking nuts, as we will not be adjusting them at any point. The only other thing you want to look at is the lowermost locking nut, and that is for your ride height. So you can go ahead and loosen this up for now, and as you can see, this is loosened up. And initially, before installing the coilover, you can set up your ride height by rotating the housing right here, and after you're done setting up your ride height, just lock this up on this end using one of the other spanners from your kit. So just to recap, this is the big plate on the top and the one below is the locking plate. So you can use this to rotate up or down in order to get your coilovers moving. So the idea is we want to be able to move the whole piston inside like this. As you can see, it's moving. Since the top is stationary and the bottom is stationary, you will be rotating the centerpiece only, which is the black part with the thread here. And this will turn and bring this part closer or further away, just like a nut and a bolt. So that's how you adjust your ride height. I'm going to show you later on how to adjust the height after you install them on the car. So since the preload is complete now, I am happy with all the distances between the springs. So now I can go ahead and start removing the OEM struts and then install these one by one. Alright, the coilovers are now set up, so I'm going to go ahead and first measure the height the car stands right now. So on the front, from the ground, it shows that I am currently sitting at approximately 27 inches high. My aim would be to get it approximately as close to 25 or 25 and a half. That means I need to drop the height about 2 inches down. And on the rear end, if I measure from the bottom right here, it is currently at 26 and a half inches. So I need to drop it down to approximately 24 and a half inches. That means I need to drop it by 2 inches also on the rear side. So that will be my aim for now. And this will give me a good estimate of how much I need to have a size difference between these Maxpeedingrod coilovers versus the OEM struts. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the front strut first and then compare it with the front ones here. So this round plate right here is the front and the triangle plate here is the rear one. The wheels are now removed. So now I can go ahead and first remove the brake line bracket from here. And after that, I can go ahead and loosen this pin from here and then loosen this nut from here. This should be a 17mm nut, I guess. And after I loosen this up, I can then remove this nut right here. This should be a 19 or maybe 17. And on the other side, the same thing should be right here. So this is the counterpart. I'm gonna have to remove this nut from here by holding on the other side. As well, I'm gonna have to remove this nut too for the link cage right here so that I can get access and loosen this lower arm right here. So let's get started and start removing things one by one. Alright, so I removed this one. And I also went ahead and loosened this one up. It took me a while, but I used an impact gun just to remove the nut from here. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove this ball joint. I used a 17mm to remove this nut from here. So now I'm using this ball joint remover and this basically locks up here. And I'm going to rotate this nut here, which will press the ball joint nut upwards this way. I'm just going to use a spanner just to rotate this and this should come out easily. Alright, as you saw, the ball joint just popped off. I went ahead and zip tied this arm right here just to hold it steady with the upper control arm. And now I have enough clearance. But before that, I'm gonna go ahead and loosen all the bolts and remove all the bolts from here. Once I remove this bolt from here, it will be easy for the strut to just come out. And I can just take it out and put the new one in. Alright, the driver's side of the front OEM strut is out now. And here is the side-by-side comparison between the OEM versus the new aftermarket Maxpeedingrods. So I lined them up on the top right here, almost approximately the same height. And the difference between them is approximately 4 inches, which is too low. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the height of this one to reach until 2 inches because that's how much I want to lower it down. And I can always go back and adjust the height whenever I want. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and increase the height 2 more inches. Alright, so the way to do it is by loosening this lock nut up. Once it's loosened up, I can then simply rotate this. As you can see, from the center to the center there, that is approximately 2 inches. Now I can go ahead and tighten this up. Alright, so the driver's side is now adjusted. The height difference between this is approximately 2 inches now. So now I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same on the passenger side. Front end, and that's gonna enable me to have exactly the same height on the driver's side as well as the passenger side. Alright, the heights are now adjusted for both the front ends. I'm gonna go ahead and now install this on the driver's side. Alright, so here are some of the things I did in the time lapse. I went ahead and I tightened these nuts here and I haven't set up the damper to the clicks yet. I'm gonna do that later on. So let me show you what's happening in the back here. So I'm using this jack actually to lift up this side of the axle here upwards so that I can match the height of this right here, as you can see. So this is where I need my bushing to be, and as soon as I reach my height, I'm going to use this one to lock it up from the other side. So once I lift up my jack a bit, this locking nut should be easily going in, and then I will lock it up. And I also went ahead and loosened up this lock nut here. Once the lock nut is in and I know the perfect position of this, I can just go ahead and lock this up. Alright, as you remember, the OEM suspension struts had a holder for the ABS sensor cable, and until now I had it zip tied just to hold it in place. And I reached out to Maxpeedingrods customer service, and as soon as I reported this problem, they sent out to me a set of brackets. So this is what they look like. It is a custom bracket that they probably manufactured. Looks very good. It has a nice silicone pad inside it to securely put it on top of here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the zip tie, and this should be an easy fix. Alright, this is what it looks like right now. As you can see, it doesn't move. It's really steady. This, to be honest, is a great solution for an OEM bracket substitute. It's made of aluminum alloy and it doesn't rust, so you don't have to worry about any kind of corrosion, and it uses the OEM hardware. So you just have to put it in and your ABS sensor will be taken care of. Alright, check this out. So this is the height right now. As you can see, if you compare this height is way lower, and I have approximately 2 finger space. And if I compare this from down, it is approximately 25 inches from the ground, which is exactly where I wanted it. Now, I don't know if I actually like the height here, or I want to go a bit lower because there is so much room underneath. So that's the beauty of having aftermarket coilovers. I think I can go a bit lower without harming my space on any of these top edges or even disturbing my turning angles. And something to note is I don't want to make any more height decisions before I go for a test drive. So once I go for a test drive, I will know for sure where I stand in terms of the actual ride height, because it does take a couple of drives just to settle in for the suspension. So now I'm going to go ahead and tighten up all the bolts for the lug nuts, as well as the ones on the top here. I'm going to go ahead and set up my dampening to the furthest clockwise. So basically, if you can hear the clicks. So this is where I maxed out. This would be the softest or the most street configuration. So now I'm going to go ahead and tighten up all the bolts and nuts here and repeat the same process on the passenger side. Here's a comparison between the driver side right now. The wheels looks good, and let's go on the passenger side and see. And here's a look from the passenger side. I actually noticed that the tires I put on were on the other orientation, so I went ahead and I changed it back to the actual orientation. And I went ahead and also installed the coilover on the passenger side. And as you can see, this is sitting too low, and I think I like how it looks. However, it's kind of not practical to have it this way because of all the potholes, bumps and whatnot. Even if I set up the damper to the stiffest position, currently this is sitting from the ground at 24 inches and it just practically doesn't make sense. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead and set this up to 25 inches from the ground to match the other side too, and that way I will have enough clearance for turning and any potholes. But if it doesn't look good, I can always remove the wheels and adjust the right height. Alright, I went ahead and lowered the front suspension to approximately ½ an inch down. So currently now it is sitting at almost 24.5 inches right here. And I'm gonna repeat the same thing on the other side, the passenger side. So now going to the rear side, the rear wheel is sitting exactly at 26.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the same height of the front to about 24.5 inches, as you can see. And here is how much I want it to be. That will make the car look absolutely dropped, as well as it's going to be easier in terms of functionality. So I'm going to go ahead and start removing the rear wheels and find out how to replace these struts. Alright, so front coilovers are done, and now I'm in the rear passenger side. So here what I have to do is obviously first remove the wheels, and then I went ahead and I removed these 3 fender liner bolts, which are 12mm bolts. So it's 1, 2 and 3. I removed it and I got access to the 2 12mm bolts just behind it. These 2 bolts that I have to remove, one is the strut bolt, which is right here, and the other is
the wheel hub bolt, which is right here. So both of the nuts use a 19mm socket, and I tried using impact gun, wrench, WD-40, nothing works. And these bolts are so rusted and almost welded together to each other. So the only solution I have is to heat them. For that, I have this hot rod. I got it off of Amazon. I'm gonna put the link in the description if you guys are interested. And I use this one to also remove the nuts and bolts on the driver's side too. And I'm gonna go ahead and use this one. So the way it works is you connect the plug, hold the red button here, which will activate the induction coil, and the bolt between the induction coil will be heated to red hot. And once it's red hot, you will hear some cracking sounds, which are the breaking sounds from rust. And as soon as it's red hot, just remove this thing, turn it off very carefully because it's really hot. Keep it away safely, and then you can go ahead and use your impact gun or your breaker bar. So that way, these bolts and nuts should come out easily. Alright, as you saw, the nut is now out, and using this heat induction coil, it was really easy for me to remove this nut. Otherwise, it was very difficult to remove it. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the other one and proceed to the next step. Alright, so in the back, what you have to do is you have the option to either remove this whole thing, and if you want, you can go ahead and remove the trim too, because all we want is access to this underneath here, because there are 3 bolts that releases the strut. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can just remove it from here. So I'm gonna take the main mat out of my way, just like this, and see if I can get my way out here. Just like this. I'm gonna go ahead and remove these. And to put this back, basically this is a hard cover. I just push it back and make sure I tuck it in the way I removed it. And I will probably end up using my trim tool to just maneuver my way around. So these would be 14. You take your 14 and just remove them slowly. And after I'm done removing these, I can do exactly the same thing on the other end. And just like that, all the 3 bolts will be out. And you can just push it in. Alright, the suspension is done on the rear end and it looks absolutely phenomenal. If you remember, the front sides were approximately 24.5 inches from the ground. So let's go ahead and measure from the ground on this rear end. And as you can see, it's almost 24.5, a little shy from 24.5. And let's see on this end, on the passenger side, it's almost exactly the same height. So I'm happy with the results and the car looks absolutely phenomenal. This is the height from here, and as you can see, this is exactly where I want it to be. There is enough space that one finger can go easily. There is not going to be any kind of rubbing. And the same goes on the front side. The rear looks good as of now. If you can see from here, the fitment looks nice. It is not too tight, and I think this is perfect. I literally have just 2 more days before the car show, and if I have time before the show, I'm gonna go ahead and put the spacers, but time is very limited, so I'm gonna go ahead and with the other stuff. Alright, I decided to increase the height from the back by 1/2 inch. The way to adjust your height would be very simple. You just have to loosen this lock nut first. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. This is now loosened up. So if I wanna increase the height, I'm gonna rotate this lock nut, the one below. So what we need to do is first loosen up this one, the locking nut for adjusting the height. If you wanna increase your height, we have to rotate this counterclockwise. And if you wanna decrease your height, you wanna rotate this clockwise, so that you will see this black thread increasing or reducing depending on what you wanna do. For example, right now, I wanna increase the height by almost 1/2 inch. It helps to get a digital vernier caliper, or you can always use your measuring tape. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my digital vernier caliper and measure out the distance I wanna increase. So as you can see, just the same height reference, and this is exactly where we want it to be. So to increase the height, I have to rotate this counterclockwise. Just use your Maxpeedingrods spanner as provided in your kit and increase it this way. Easy peasy. As you can see, this distance, the black thread after this lock nut would be increasing because we are rotating this counterclockwise and increasing its height. All right, as you can see, this is exactly where I want it to be. So this is where I'm gonna go ahead and lock it up, and I'm gonna repeat the same process on the other end. And to lock it, you just have to put this one as close as possible and use the Maxpeedingrods spanners to tighten them up. Now I'm gonna go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side. This right now is sitting at 24.5 inches from the ground, which is exactly the same in the front. So now it is a uniform height and it should sit absolutely awesome. So this looks great now, and it was a good decision to raise the rear instead of lowering the front because I want to have functionality when I drive. I don't want to scrub and scrape stuff because I do intend to drive this car on a daily basis. So I want to keep the functionality as much as possible. And before I forget to mention, I set up the damping on the front as well as the rear at 20 clicks, which is an average between sport and comfort, because if I wanted comfort, I wouldn't choose coilovers, if you know what I mean.
Alright guys, now it's time to go for a test drive and let's see how the car performs in bumpy roads, turns and during acceleration. As you can see, the damping is doing its job, and remember it was set at 20 clicks in street settings, and I'm very impressed with the car's response on this uneven road. Sudden maneuvers are also good with all the sides of the car at a steady level, keeping the handling very dynamic. Even during sharp corners, the Maxpeedingrods coilovers keeps the car at a steady angle. Straight lines also feels good. As you can see, the dampers absorbs all the bumps as well as keeps the aggressive ride height, and also applying brakes at a speed doesn't lift the car from the rear. So it obviously maintains well. As you can see, I am super happy with the results. The car is performing really well. So huge shout out to Maxpeedingrods, and I'll put the link in the description, and you can use my code BUILDFIX to get a 10% discount on your order. In the next episode, I'm gonna install my favorite charcoal black suede in my interior and also fix my worn out beige leather seats with some luxury beige suede. I am so close to getting the car ready for the car show, so stay with me and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, I'll see you on the next one.